Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me. One more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
See us on the air. All right. We'll call this meeting to order at 6:30. Appointment of timekeeper. Andy, you're our timekeeper tonight. Good with that? All right. Public appearance on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we didn't receive any, so should be good there. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 12th, 2026 RCC meeting?
So moved.
All right. Second. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor of the meeting minutes from the January 12th meeting, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. All right, minutes pass. Moving on to agenda items for new business. We have agenda item 4A, resolution R3226. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I make a motion that we approve resolution R-32-26.
All right, is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Ryan seconds. All right, discussion?
Yes, so the Renew the Blue Council, kind of as described, is, again, it's a group of different entities, so municipalities, businesses, nonprofits, farmer-led groups that have come together to basically create this council. There was a document published called Renew the Blue in 2022 that outlined about a dozen major steps or actions that could be taken to reduce the levels of phosphorus entering the Yahara chain of lakes. So this Renew the Blue Council has actually been going on for a few years. Other municipalities had been participating, but just recently this year, they reached out to our mayor and city administrator to see if there'd be interest in Fitchburg joining this group. So there was interest. Basically, the commitment is there'd be 2 delegates from the city, so that would be myself and then Ron French, to attend like 5 meetings over the course of 2026. To focus on implementation of these 12 high priority actions. So with that, there is a kind of a membership fee to join. So it's $1,000 Clean Lakes Alliance membership fee. Clean Lakes Alliance is kind of the organization that spearheaded this Renew the Blue Council and got everyone together. And then there's another $1,000 facilitation fee. So there is professional facilitator for this group that kind of, keeps things in focus, make sure that the aim kind of remains on how to implement those 12 priority actions. So there was kind of a kickoff just last week. Bunch of the, like I said, of these different entities were at this initial kickoff meeting. Including Fitchburg's Mayor Julio, so she was able to answer some questions on a panel regarding kind of how she sees the city, growing and also, maintaining or improving water quality. So yeah, it's really kind of a group focused on implementing these 12 priority actions, kind of the short of it. So yeah, happy to answer any other specific questions people may have.
Yeah, I might point out the mayor called me last week, and based on my water quality background, she asked me if I would like to participate on the council, so I said yeah.
Very good. So Ron, just your opinion of joining this? I mean, obviously
Well, I think
you've looked into it.
it'd be good for us.
Yeah.
As we've been actively involved, help putting together the lake management plan for the Lake Waubesa and doing other activities in the Swan Creek watershed and Murphy's Creek watershed. So I think it'll be good for us because we have a lot of interaction or potential. We still have a lot of agricultural land, and the city is growing. So yeah, I think it'd be good for us to be on the council.
We've had speakers come in and talk to us about this.
Yeah.
It's been something that we've talked about pretty continuously. Like, I don't think there's been a year that's gone by where we haven't been talking about this, and we know how important the Wingrove watershed is just off to our east, and we know the development that's happening over in that region. So I think, if it's a priority of the mayor's, to kind of continue to monitor and have high water quality, feels pretty valuable to me to be a part of it. We're knowledgeable about this. This is right in your area of expertise. So it feels like a pretty good fit to me.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
Bill?
Yeah. So it looks like there should have been a hyperlink in the agenda packet. There's some underlined blue text, but it doesn't, when you click on it, nothing happens. So, and I wasn't good enough to go read that Renew the Blue document. Can you give us a high level overview of these 12, action items, and like how many things are in that list of 12 that we're not actively doing, that kind of thing? Because, as we remember when Todd from USGS spoke last month, he said that phosphorus in the watershed is primarily a function of large rain events, right? So I guess if you can just kind of address those questions.
Yeah, large rain events, and also the melt from the runoff in March and April from the snow that we have, snowpack. So I'm not online, so are you online to get those?
Yep. Yeah. So exactly right. Rain really is the biggest driver of you can be doing everything right, and if you get a lot of gully washers in one year, and like you said, particularly if it's in that late winter time period, it really has a big effect. But the 12 top high priority actions, several of them are actually more tied with they're more focused on agriculture or agricultural improvements that could be made. So things like building additional manure processing capacity, increasing the ability to handle and transport manure, increasing farmland acres guided by a nutrient management plan, increase farmland acres under a no-till or reduced tillage, and continuous living cover. So those are the top 4, and it's a big group of people with all sorts of different expertise. So it's not every delegate's job to try to do something about each one of these. For example, the next one is increase municipal street cleaning miles and frequency during fall. You've got protect internally drained lands and wetlands, increasing green infrastructure installation in parks, new developments, and on existing residential and commercial properties. So those are some things that we've already been kind of working on, and are maybe something that the city has more ability to impact. And then there's some other actions here. Continuing to work together as Yahara clean compact members, increase participation in producer-led watershed groups, complete an inventory of shoreline and beach conditions, increase E. coli testing at public beaches, and then continue to track and report progress. So yeah, I mean, not every single one of these high priority actions applies to Fitchburg. I think increase E. coli testing at public beaches is a good example, right? There's not a public beach in Fitchburg. So it's kind of, depending on your background, you'd be kind of helping out with a specific implementation team.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes to that we'll, stormwater management within the city, things that flow into Swan Creek and Murphy's Creek, what we can do to help eliminate any pollutants getting into the system. Like the street sweeping, I don't know what our frequency is, or can we increase it, or what, I don't know. But those things that we can talk about, what we can do to improve. So,
yep. I would say the agricultural side too, like we have a lot of agricultural space here in Fitchburg, so are there things or events that we can do to kind of get more best management practices in front of those farmers in terms of, like, I think big topic of conversation was the cover crops when Tom came in. So, like, is there anything that we can do on that front to kind of support our farmers and agricultural properties in Fitchburg?
Yeah, and I think that would be great, because historically it's been more focused on kind of management of the urban runoff. So, and you're right, I mean, Fitchburg has as much farmland as any city really in Dane County, so it would be kind of an ideal place to, and maybe it's just having people come in to do some talks. There's a Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different avenues we could look to kind of promoting some of these things.
I mean, I don't think the city has any ordinance or regulations regulating farmland, do they?
No, and I don't
Company
even know
like
what
requiring cover
legally.
crop of bare land.
Yeah, I don't know what. I'm not familiar, I guess, with the agricultural statutes and what a municipality.
We have the ability to host those events and get
Exactly.
experts here, like we do for our other events. So I feel like there's potentially an opportunity there to improve that effort across Dane County. And now we're in a little different spot than what we're talking about. Like, we're not feeding the entire lake system, starting with like, I think they're talking a lot about the farmland like up in the Wanakee area and what might be flowing into Lake Mendota, but like it's a little different. But like our water is flowing in towards Lake Wingra and then flowing down Yahara and going to Kaganza, so it's not that much different.
Right. I mean, it's maybe it's not going into Mendota, but it's still
Monona,
but it's still going into the chain of lakes. So
yeah.
I mean, do we have ordinances that when new developments come in, like at Terra Vista, that a certain percentage of the development would include green space, or?
So that's almost more of a zoning question. So depending on and Terra Vista was all the smart code zoning. So it was depending on if they use different zoning districts. If you're a T1, T2, T3, there's kind of a different amount of impervious surface you're supposed to have. So I guess I would say yes, there is, but that's kind of more handled on the zoning side of things.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so Ben, there was, for both this one and the Swan Creek monitoring station, there was, these are small dollar amounts really in the grand scheme of things, but there was some pushback at the Board of Public Works, wondering, Fitchburg is going to pay into these things. What is Fitchburg going to get out of it? So what's the elevator pitch that I can use at the council meeting tomorrow night for the benefit to Fitchburg?
To join this council?
Right.
I think there's a couple. I think exchange of ideas is always up there. You kind of think, well, doesn't everyone in Fitchburg kind of know what is going on in Verona? And all these good ideas are just being shared, but it's it's not it's not just kind of happening like that. You really do have to make these kind of concerted efforts to get everyone in the same room, so things can get figured out. But the other benefit to this is, and I think this is important, but there's other kind of groups that you do kind of get that exchange of ideas, but they don't really have the diversity as far as who's in the group, right? A group of a bunch of engineers, that's great, but that's not really the decision makers. So with this, you have alders, you have people representing local businesses, you have again the kind of the representation from farmers in the area. So it's really kind of different than some of these other groups that the city has participated in, and I think largely just because of the number of different kind of sectors represented in this group. I kind of see that as the biggest benefit to this.
Would it be useful to maybe put together an article for the Fitchburg Star to talk about joining this organization? Let people know what we're doing.
Or Fitchburg Connect.
Oh yeah,
What was that?
That's the new newsletter, Fitchburg Connect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess we'll have to figure out what our role is going to be with that.
Diana, do you have a question?
No, I was going to say that definitely we're going to have better access to data. So that's something that we can keep in mind. That's why it's beneficial to be part of that.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yes,
Fine,
excellent.
okay. And then also it's kind of like a unified approach to improving water quality, like in general. So I think that's also another strong benefit from joining.
And then, much like we tout ourselves as recycling leaders, clean water and clean lakes are also important to us. And so, we definitely want to have a seat at the table with these types of groups and these opportunities. Like, Fitchburg's invested. We have a new sustainability plan. It would feel a little bit awkward to have a new sustainability plan and then we're not at the table for something like this. So it just feels like, these are the types of opportunities that we want to be, in front of, we want to be in the conversation with, we want to be helping to lead, we want to be helping to facilitate getting the expertise in here because we do have, good connections where, the Fitchburg, the DNR office is a mile down the road from here. So it's, very accessible for us to have these events, get experts from the university, the DNR, other experts, and be having these conversations to take the steps with keeping phosphorus out of our waterways.
Yeah, we do have the Clean Streams program where, every April we go out and clean parts of the streams up. Do anybody else in the watershed do that we know of? Or?
Yeah, I don't know if they call it the same kind of waterway cleanup, but there's different types of cleanup events that different cities do.
I know Friends of Start.
In Friends groups,
Friends groups, yeah.
All right, so I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of joining Resolution R32-3026, resolution to join the Renew the Blue Council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All right, resolution passes. Moving on to agenda item 4B. Do I have a motion to approve resolution R-26-26, accepting agreement with the USGS for operation of the Swan Creek Monitoring Station?
I make a motion that we approve resolution R-26-26.
Second.
Diana?
Who seconded that? Was that Bill?
I think Diana peeped up.
Oh, Diana?
No, it was Bill.
Oh, it was me. Bill beat me to it, so
Okay.
Bill's got it.
Oh, You guys are eager online. I like all the seconds up there. We had 3 at the same time. All right. All right. Any discussion on resolution R26? I think this is one we've approved before.
Yeah, so again, this is just, we just had Todd here last month. This is for the USGS gauging station or monitoring station at Swan Creek. So again, this is the monitoring station that was installed in 2022. It monitors for several different pollutants, including nitrates, chlorides, particulate and dissolved phosphorus, and then also, you know, your typical kind of stream monitoring, flows, stage, that kind of stuff. But yes, so, you know, as Todd kind of said, this monitoring allows us to kind of see trends over time. It allows us to see and kind of make connections to what's happening in the watershed, seeing if there's impacts that are observable through the monitoring station, and hopefully it'll provide some really great information to kind of manage future decisions. And I know there was some questions on this one with the Board of Public Works as well, and this one is a little bit more of a cost. It's not just the $2,000 from the, you know, it's $25,000, and it's kind of it's not nothing, but if you do it for 4 years, did you really get anything out of it? Would be kind of what I would say. You know, 4 years worth of data, maybe you can glean some things, but really this kind of monitoring, to be able to get the benefits out of it, it just kind of has to be done for a longer period of time. Things, you know, certainly there's been a lot of growth in Fitchburg, but you know, it's only a small percentage of the total watershed. So you're not gonna be seeing these crazy differences, you know, just after 1 year. Not to mention, as we kind of talked about before, rain is the biggest driver. So you kind of have to have enough data to allow the ability to kind of normalize for that different amount of rainfall that you're going to see year to year. But that is, as far as, you know, is there anything that the city could do to reduce the cost while still maybe not picking up as much data, but enough data to make decisions off of? I think that's the discussion that I'll be having with USGS to see if there's any kind of opportunities to reduce the cost. But like I said, I think if we want to get something out of it, then it just kind of needs to be in place for longer than 4 years, in my opinion. It's intended to be a long-term monitoring. But certainly I'll work with Todd and the USGS to see if there's ways we can kind of keep the cost from creeping up each year as it has, or if there's any kind of other, you know, 1 year grant funding opportunities or anything of the sort. But you know, again, like I said, my recommendation would be to continue with the monitoring, and just see if there's ways to reduce the cost while still getting enough data that it's not, you know, it's not useless. But I think to get rid of it now, then it's almost like the $100,000 or whatever that's already been spent is, you just threw it down the toilet, kind of.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation, is to continue with the monitoring.
I mean, the city limits, the headwaters of Swan Creek's within the city limits. So we do encompass a large part of the Swan Creek watershed. So, and a little bit of the Murphy's Creek watershed, but mostly Swan Creek. So
Yep.
anything that we do within the city, it will drain into the Swan Creek area watershed. So. Which then
Still
eventually
one
goes
of the
away.
most active developments
Yeah.
in the city,
Yeah.
and probably will be for a while.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Ben, the data that's collected at these monitoring stations, is that something that the Renew the Blue Council is going to be monitoring? Are they going to be looking at that to gauge progress on these 12 actions?
Potentially, I'll just say potentially. For now, I don't know if I can say yes or no. I think it would depend on. I mean, it certainly could be if there's actions, you know, particularly the agricultural actions. You know, that'd be, I think, really interesting to see if there are some. You know, it would have to be a lot of farmland, but if there was farmland that maybe isn't doing cover crops or no-till now and starts doing it, or they get a few different farms, then that would be a great resource to have then.
I mean, having this information and sharing it with others in the watershed, they'll go, oh, you guys have a gauging station, you know, we might want to do that as well, and then finding out what that data is being generated from that gauging station and how it affects water quality in the watershed, I think is important to the Clean Lakes Alliance because it's part of their overall program of improving water quality in the lake. So we tie right in with what we're doing, our stormwater program, and also with this gauging station to provide them data to understand like what's happening in the watershed. Like, you know, Todd showed in his graph, you know, what those major flow events do to phosphorus levels getting in Lake Wapisa or Swan Creek. So otherwise we wouldn't know that. Why Lake Wapisa looks so horrible, you know? Well, like this information here.
And it is really the only way to know. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, we've got models and stuff, and there can be predictions, but it's a prediction.
Yeah.
This is, someone sampled it,
Yeah.
took it to a lab. This is how much phosphorus was in the water. It's
I mean, I think over a period of time when you talk with Todd, if we have to cut back, you know, okay, so Todd, do we have enough information to support modeling in the watershed for you know, these parameters in Swan Creek and impacting Lake Wapisa? Or, you know, how many more years do we have to collect phosphorus data, you know, conductivity data, TSS data, et cetera? So at what point do we reach where you have enough data to support modeling? So, you know, we've got a good data, now we have a good baseline data set, you know, so now you might need some additional data to calibrate a model, and then you got to collect data afterwards to validate that model. So that'd be a question I asked Todd, you know, how many more years would we have to do this if we're using that data for modeling that work?
sure.
Do you know what the frequency is that we're testing it? I mean, is it being tested like?
Every precipitation event.
Yeah, precipitation event, the sensors click on, let's go samplers.
Okay.
So, I mean, we get real-time data for flow, temperature, and I think conductivity. Yeah, so we get that real time, so.
So what would we be able to reduce, if anything, in terms of the monitoring frequency if everything is pretty much automated?
Well, it would probably end up being reductions in either frequency. You wouldn't have to do, it doesn't have to be, I think, at every rain event of whatever pollutants you want. You could reduce all of them, nitrate. You could possibly get rid of nitrate. I think we did see a trend there where it's really, we know it's more groundwater based and it's not as impacted by. So I think there would be some comfort in eliminating that. You could try doing every other year. Again, that's where it's like, you kind of wish you had every year because of how variable the rain can be.
Have a drought year versus a rain
Yeah,
year.
but I think if you still did every other year, it's probably, just with development, sure it's fast, but it's not that fast. I think you could still get a pretty good picture if you did it every other year.
Total suspended solids might be another one, because they were using it to verify the curb with the conductivity measurements. So getting rid of that might be an option too.
So yeah, I do believe there's some discussions that we can have. You know, you want to get all the data, but
How much has it gone up in the 4 years? We started at like 17,000 or something like that?
Yeah, I'd have to confirm that. I'll have to get back to you on that, but it's,
I mean, most of the costs generated for laboratory.
yes.
Laboratory analyses.
Yeah, it's kind of like out of our control, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the lab costs have.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. As someone that works in the environmental industry, that lab tests have been going up.
Yeah.
And largely the lab services have held prices as well as they could, but like there's been so much inflation, that they've had to raise their prices. But they did a really, in Wisconsin at least, that I feel like they've done a pretty good job of holding prices where they could for a while, but they've had to come up these last couple of years. So that's part of the explanation.
It is, and USGS, it used to, I think they had maybe a lower rate for some of these testing that they don't have anymore. So that was part of it.
I think their testing is done at the USGS lab, right? It's not like they contract out.
It was.
It was?
And then now it's done at the hygiene lab.
State lab.
State
State
hygiene,
lab, okay.
State hygiene lab.
Okay.
So Ben, do you recommend, that we just, speak to the resolution, or do you think we should, mention some type of amendment that you're going to be talking to them about reducing the costs? Or do you think we should just vote on it as it is?
Yeah, I think so.
And then know that you're just going to be doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this topic? All right, I think we're ready to go to a vote. All those in favor of resolution R-26-26 accepting agreement with the USGS for the operation of the Swan Creek monitoring station, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Say no. All right, the resolution passes. And we all understand that Ben is going to have a discussion with them and talk about the cost aspect of it, see if there's any clever things that could potentially be done as that cost is getting higher each year. Very good, thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on to agenda topic 4C, Lead for City Certification Cohort Program. Phil.
Howdy.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm noticing a bit of AV lag on here, so hopefully things don't cut out on us. We'll see. Yeah, so every year the U.S. Green Building Council, well, let's start at the start. You all familiar with LEED certification? Most commonly done for buildings, new construction. Yes. They expanded. The process started over 20 years ago. About 2007, 2009, somewhere in there, they expanded from just building design and construction into some interior design and fit outs, operations and management of buildings. Eventually went to LEED for campuses, and so large corporations with campuses or colleges could start applying for LEED certification. In the last decade, they've added LEED for cities and communities. So now an entire city can get certified as LEED and look at what they're doing on a number of different categories that one can earn points, and two, where are their gaps to understand where they can improve in those categories. So last year, after the sustainability conference in Dubuque, I participated in a LEED for Cities accelerator with a number of other municipalities, and it was an online course essentially designed to springboard us into participating in a LEED for Cities application process. Every year for the past 5 years, they've also been doing, funded by, I want to say this is Bank of America. I don't have this right in front of me, but a Lead for Cities and Communities cohort program, where this is 1 year of technical assistance provided by US GBC to participating municipalities to help us collect data, aggregate all the information we would need to submit an application for LEED certification, and then at the end of the process, we would apply. Middleton did this in 2021. It was a little bit slower. It was the first cohort process, still coming out of COVID stuff. They submitted in 2023 and received LEED Gold status as a city. Sun Prairie is going through the process right now. They're in the 2025 cohort. I need to check back with them on what their status is in terms of applying for certification, because their lead sustainability staffer actually left the role about a month ago, and so I know they have another. They had just expanded last year to 1.5, so I need to check and see if their other sustainability person is able to keep that going. But we've had 2 of our Dane County neighbors participate in this process. So I'm putting a resolution, a direct referral in front of council tomorrow. The reason for the direct referral is just with other stuff going on, I wasn't able to get to putting this resolution together sooner. I kind of hope to be able to do the application just directly with mayoral approval, and after some discussion, we decided that getting council approval was preferable, but I couldn't get it on council's agenda soon enough to get it referred to RCC and then back to them for a vote. So the application is due this weekend, Saturday, I believe. So I'll try to submit by Friday. Still wanted to chat with RCC about this, make sure you're aware this is going on, see if you have any questions, and part of the application even just asks about what exactly is the phrasing here. Describe buy-in for certification from elected and appointed officials, senior management, community-based organizations, and/or civic leaders. Would be great to also be able to put in the application that I know that RCC is on board with this and supports the process. So I can give just a quick rundown of what all goes into this cohort, and then after a couple minutes of that, see if you've got any questions or concerns about all this. So we'll just share this whole screen here. So the resolution for council that I'll be talking with them about tomorrow essentially lays out what this cohort is all about. There's more information in the staff memo, and it says, yeah, as council, we support this. We want the sustainability specialist to lead this process and eventually apply for LEED certification next year. The reason that there was let's go through here. So I put in some slides in the staff memo, just kind of giving some overview information about this process, what the benefits are to participating communities. This right here is the list of credit categories. So if you're not, you may be familiar with LEED as a certification program. The way the process works is there are a number of prerequisites that you have to meet in order to even qualify for certification. Some of those have points associated with them, some do not. Once you've hit all those prerequisites, then within each category, so here integrative process, natural systems, et cetera, across the columns, within each one of those categories, there are places where you can get credits, and sometimes there's just 1 credit available in an area, sometimes it's 4, 8, 12, depending on the complexity of the credit category and how impactful it is on your overall building, site, city sustainability. So these are the places that we would be looking at collecting data. One of the really nice things about doing this cohort this year, besides the fact that we just passed a sustainability plan last year, and also I just did the LEED for Cities Accelerator last year. So we did a sustainability plan that was just, we were collecting data in 2023, so that data was largely from 2022. We can use data that is up to 5 years old for this process. So if we do this LEED cohort this year, a lot of that data collection has already been done through the sustainability plan process. So it really reduces the total lift to staff, which is really important. I think that makes it a lot more viable to go through this process. But these are all the different places where we could capture data and other projects, programs that the city's pursuing that could qualify us for some of these points. One of the really nice things here is there's a category for quality of life. There are several metrics in here that cover things that we have kind of tried to capture with equity components in the sustainability plan, the bicycle and pedestrian plan, This gives us more specific quantitative metrics than what we had in those plans. And so this is also a really good way to not just check off boxes and say, we tried this thing, but this actually gives us some metrics to see how we're performing in these areas and where there are gaps to meet. I think that's really important that this gives us a little bit more, quantitative accountability on that quality of life component. So I've got all the rundown. You can find this if you look at council's packet tomorrow. The staff memo's in there, so if you really want to dig into what all the different point categories are that are available there. And this is what the timeline would look like. So it would be a 1-year process, go from April 1st of this year to March 31st of next year. There would be there'd be an online orientation. I think the first couple cohorts traveled to DC, but they've cut that out, which is probably for the best, a little more efficient with everyone's time and money. But then the idea is you graduate, quote unquote, at the end of March next year, and then you would pursue your certification application. That has an $8,000 cost. So that's why we're putting this in front of council, is there's the possibility that we will be putting $8,000 into our budget next year for this application. They recommend you reapply after 5 years. It's not required. If you're certified once, you're certified always. If you want to keep applying, it helps you to track progress and keep that certification up to date, but it's not required. The reason that I say the $8,000 is possible is because they do have financial assistance available, so I would be applying for that as well when I submit this application. Hopefully we'd be able to get some or all of that $8,000 covered as well by their sponsorships. But we'll need to have council let us know that, one, they're on board with us pursuing this, and two, that they understand if we don't get that financial assistance, that I'll be including some funding for that application in next year's budget. I think nothing else in here that necessarily requires any sort of detailed cover on my part, so I can just kind of leave it there. That's sort of the overview of the lead process, what we'd be looking at, what I'm sharing with council tomorrow. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns?
And in the package, that 2-letter regarding this program, I can't click on the links that talks about the 4 different municipalities. Can I get the original letter where you can actually click the link? And
I can send you the.
Okay.
This was printed off from the website, so
okay.
I'll send you the link to the website.
Okay, I'd like to read what the benefits that the cities are getting from that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, these were just all screenshots that I took from their from that info packet. You can also, if you search that title, info packet 2026 lead for city certification cohort, it'll probably be the first result you get in any browser, any search engine.
Phil, does the fact that we are not pursuing LEED certification on our police facility ding us on this application? I wasn't sure I saw anything like that in the metrics they're collecting, but it doesn't.
It does not ding us. It would be something that I would love to be able to highlight in the application. Because we're not pursuing LEED on that facility, I simply won't highlight it. So when I went through the LEED Accelerator series last year, I did kind of mock up where I thought we'd be points-wise based on a number of things, and I do believe there is one credit category where they often give you 2 or 3 different options for getting points in a particular category, and I do think one of them was having a certain number of LEED certified buildings in your municipality. So it might be an area where there are potential points that we can't get that way because we're not pursuing LEED on more buildings, but we're not necessarily getting dinged for it, if that makes sense.
Do we have any buildings or structures on the horizon that would qualify for LEED? I mean, things like the police department is like the last major building that we have to build for a while. So
I would agree. I'm not aware of any big building projects coming up, probably the closest thing we would get to a big building project is maybe if they completely redid a small park structure at this point. So, yeah, I don't anticipate anything in the near or frankly distant future.
What about upgrading existing facilities to meet LEED certification, to get LEED certified?
So if we were to do that, so building design and construction is one category. There is another one for kind of a building redesign. There is also a LEED certification category for operations and maintenance. So that's also something that if council was interested in that, I love LEED for building design and construction. It's fantastic. It's a great way to make sure that from the beginning of that building cycle, you're being as efficient, as low waste as possible. When you're talking about energy use, water use, operations and maintenance is in a lot of ways more meaningful to track. So you can have it designed to be really efficient, and if you're not keeping up with monitoring that, once you get essentially through the building commissioning, you're just sort of trusting that everything works the way it says it will. And generally that's going to be the case, but the operations and maintenance certification would help to verify that. So that's another route we could go. I would guess that because the cost of certification for the police facility was the thing that sort of took it out of consideration. My guess is that the cost for doing an operations and maintenance LEED certification may also be a disincentive, unless there was some sort of external assistance.
Could we get credit for private entities who have LEED certified buildings in our community? Like Promega.
I don't think so.
Other ones. I mean, they're not, but in our community, we have, X number of LEED facilities that aren't part of the city, but it's a nice thing to have in our community, these buildings.
One of the metrics that they track is energy use, not just for the municipality, not just for the government, but across the community. And so if you have a ton of LEED buildings, net zero buildings, that will be reflected in lower overall community energy use. So I think that's the place that we would see the greatest benefit. Because there are specific credit categories. There is also there's an online, there's a data tracking tool that they use called ARC, and for a number of categories: energy use, water use, waste produced by the whole community. They have you collect your data, put it into ARC, and it gives you a score, and then based on your score, you get a certain number of points towards your certification. So if we have lower energy use, we get a higher score for that category. We get more points related to community energy use. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And then I'm also kind of skipped past it there. If you were really, really eagle-eyed, you'd notice there was a Dear Reader letter from Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change. I am securing letters of support as well. I have that one from Dane County. I've got one from Middleton, who, as I mentioned, pursued this a couple of years ago. Also, I'm trying to get letters from, I have a commitment to provide letters from Madison and Sustain Dane and Madison Gas and Electric, and I'll just need to follow up with them this week to see where they're at on that. Tried a couple other potential letter writers as well, but hoping that some additional letters of support will along with everything else, help to push our application over the edge, over the top.
Are you highlighting our Efficiency Navigator program work in this application?
I sure am.
Okay.
Yeah, let me double check. I do believe it's already called out in the application. And if it's not, I know I'm pretty certain Middleton referenced it in their letter of support. No, I haven't called it out yet in the application. I don't know that it really necessarily directly fits with any of the Q&A responses, but.
All right. Anything else that you need from us, or does anybody else have any comments or questions on this?
I will just make a comment. I think you mentioned earlier that the deadline you thought was Saturday. It looks like the packet that is Friday. At least.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm planning to apply Friday.
Okay.
Right. I thought Saturday because I miscounted days last week.
Okay.
But it is the 13th for there.
Just want to make sure that, yeah, that's it.
Good catch though. Thanks. So I will definitely be applying by Friday, Thursday if I can. But yeah, spending a good bit of time on that this week.
All right. Well, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess the question then, there's not like a formal vote because the resolution is a direct referral to council. Would there be any concerns with my putting in the application that I have the support of RCC on this is the question. I don't know if it would take an informal vote or if it's just kind of a with no objections. Chris, what do you think there?
Yeah, I guess I don't know that we need to do a formal vote on it, but I guess does anybody have a objection to us pursuing Lead for City certification cohort program?
No, I mean, I saw it was a resolution, right, going before council tomorrow. Is that right?
Correct.
So has it already gone through other departments then, or?
I don't
It has gone through city administration. It's not going through any committees because it's a direct referral. But I've chatted with a couple department heads about it, and I have the mayor's support and admin support.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to make a lot of sense with us just going through the sustainability process,
Yeah.
and having all that data readily available to pursue it. You know, it's not like we're going out on a whim here. Like Middleton's done it in, what'd you say, 2023, and Sun Prairie's in the 2025 cohort. So,
yep.
You know, and then all of the people that are providing letters of recommendation, you know, Sustain Dane, Dane County Climate Coalition, right? Yeah.
Sustained. I did ask the local government climate coalition. I haven't gotten a response, but their executive director is also transitioning away from that role, so I think she's got other priorities taking up her time.
So, you know, I don't really have an objection to pursuing this at all, and it doesn't sound like anybody else does so far. So, wish you the best of luck. We'll be interested to hear how it goes.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated by. I don't believe. So yeah, the timeline was that they'll make their decision announcements by the end of March. Oh, by the end of February. So by the March meeting, you'll know if I'll be able to let you know whether we've been accepted or not.
Okay.
And I mean, primarily, first of all, tomorrow making sure that council votes to support this resolution, and if they don't, then I'm not applying. But assuming they do, then I'll have an update in March.
Okay. Very good. Good luck.
All right. Thanks.
Moving on to agenda 4D, looking at the 2027 to 2031 capital improvement project budget requests. Ben's going to lead us in that conversation.
Yeah, so you should see my screen up here soon. And I do apologize. I had intended to have some other things prepared for potential suggestions or additions. Didn't get to it, so we'll see this one again next month and maybe have a little bit more of a longer discussion on it. But I thought there's some new people in the group. It would maybe be a good idea to just go through what's currently in the CIP, and just so everyone's kind of familiar with the types of projects that are considered, you know, capital improvement projects, and make it into this plan. So we'll just go over the existing ones real quick. First one here, it's actually in the refuse and recycling budget. This was added as an amendment last year. So they've got $650,000 in 2032, and this would be for the purchase of 2 leaf vacuums. We've talked to some other municipalities that use these leaf vacuums, kind of what they like, what they don't like, cost, you know, maintenance expenses. So I think we've got a pretty good idea of what it all entails, what it costs.
And would this supplement our existing leaf pickup program, or would it take over the leaf?
This would replace
Replace it.
the leaf pickup program. So if the city does go ahead and purchase a leaf vacuum, the plan would be to continue brush pickup through Pelletary. But all the leaf pickup would be just done by city crews. The intent would be to have, you know, the service. Right now you get 3 pickups, so that'd be the expectation, a minimum of 3 passes throughout the city. So of course we don't want to change and then have people getting worse service after making this big commitment.
So that would require homeowners then to rake leaves in the curb?
Not the curb, but on the terrace.
On the terrace, okay.
On the terrace. Yep, and that'll be a big kind of educational
Yeah.
component to it, because we don't want the leaves in the curb.
Right, yeah.
And then the schedule will be pretty critical. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want it to be sitting out there for weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's, I mean, if the city goes ahead with it, I'm sure the first year or maybe first month we'll learn some things, and so will everyone else. But obviously other communities do it, so it's not like this is just way out of the ballpark, weird idea. You know, certainly something that can be done. So that's that one. Cyan interceptor.
Ben?
Yes.
What do we do with the leaf vacuum trucks the other 11 months of the year? Can they do something, or do they just sit in storage?
Yeah, so that is one of the biggest questions that have come up, because that's a lot of money for something that sits for, 9 months at least. So you can get some where I think the leaf box can kind of come off the chassis, so you can use then that truck for other things throughout the year, just as kind of like I think maybe you can get yes, there are other options where you can get a truck and that's kind of the more expensive ones. I think Titan was maybe the brand of one that you can kind of convert and take off the leaf vacuum equipment and put on just like a regular bed or something. But that is a very good question, and we would like to explore getting something that has more than one single use.
Yeah, good point.
And do we have any idea whether this would improve our or make worse our phosphorus from leaves? On the one hand, Pelletary only picks up what's in the bags, but on the other hand, there's wind. So if you just rake them to the terrace, you might get a lot more leaves in the street.
Yeah. My feeling is it would probably be virtually the same. Because the city also runs the 2 leaf street sweepers basically constantly throughout the day during the fall. So I think a lot of that leaf litter does get picked up, and we're working on prioritizing the kind of leaf hot spots. So getting to them, weekly. I don't have to sweep up every street if it's pretty clean, right? So it's really, and we've got kind of an app that we've put together to help us identify those hot spots. But I don't think there would be a huge difference either way as far as the vibe. I don't know.
From a cost savings standpoint, I'm sure you've done some analysis to get to this point, of what we pay Pelletary versus, what this will pay back on this investment would be. Has that been evaluated as part of this as well?
Yes, so there's a memo that I drafted a couple of years ago. I think I shared it. So it is, from what I can tell, I believe it's more expensive.
What's more? This is
the leaf vacuum.
Okay.
But it's it kind of depends on how you want to look at it, right? Because you will need new or more employees if you don't want to give up some other service, right? Because right now, no one in the city is picking up leaves, and all of a sudden for 2 or 3 months, you'll have 2 people that are going to be operating these. So if you don't want to give up, whatever other services that they were doing, patching potholes, whatever, then you would need to get 2 employees. So it kind of depends on how that would be handled. It's almost more of a finance question with where's the money coming from at that point. But it was, and I can share that memo again. At any point, again, 2032 is a little bit out there, but yeah, it kind of depends on how you look at that employee salary, because you might be able to get out of some other contracts and bring more stuff in-house so you can put those other individuals to work. And yeah, there's some nuance to it. Like I said, I think Pelletary maybe presents a cheaper option right now, but it's not wildly less expensive for Pelletary to pick it up than it would be to use the leaf vacuum.
Plus, you'd have a little bit more.
You have more control.
So much like you just talked about the street sweeping, you could go to the hot spots, right? In terms of where, where those are going to be from what you've been doing with your mapping and GIS work, I assume, on the street sweeping side of things. So then there would be, somewhat that customized approach. So, in that regard,
maybe you would do a little better on the phosphorus.
You could potentially do a little bit better on the phosphorus and kind of our highest impact zones. I mean, obviously, much like you don't go and clean, the very clean streets, you could also be like, well, the new development, maybe we need to go through there, once, compared to some areas we need to go through 6, 7, 8 times.
Yep.
So I think.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's a lot of neighborhoods where you don't need more than 1 leaf collection, right? And then you might go to around Seminole Village, or you're going to need a lot of leaf collections.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've kind of, coming into a newer development in Swan Creek, kind of seen that change over the last 15, 20 years. When we were first in there, maybe we have 1 container that needs to get picked up for the year with all of our leaves, but now it's substantially more, and 5 or 6 years from now it'll be even more. I would say Quarry Hill's probably in the same boat as that. We have different developments, different stages, but all for the customized approach would probably potentially help our phosphorus situation in that regard. But I also agree with Bill. Things could be more windblown in some situations as well.
So you got your pros and cons. All right, were there any questions on the leaf vacuum? All right, I'll move ahead. So Cyan, this interceptor, this is a sanitary project, by mistake. So this is our first stormwater CIP item here. This is stormwater pond dredging and retrofits. This is an item that is funded annually, so you can see in 2026 it'll have $225,000 available, and this is a pretty important CIP project. The city has a lot of ponds. They should be dredged at the very least, or the city should be completing dredging projects probably every other year, so you can kind of keep on pace to try to get each pond dredged out every 30 years or so, or as needed.
What's the average cost per pond for dredging?
It varies widely. We've seen $100,000 for a small pond, $300,000 for a larger one. So it's I could go back and look and maybe come up with per
Cubic
pond
yard.
area or cubic yard or something like that. But you'll see that's why in 2030 there's a much larger amount included. And that was it. That was knowing that at some point the city will have to dredge the Key Farms park ponds or do a partial dredge. Of course, those are very, very large. And actually, I think it won't have to be in 2030. We've been, doing our sediment depth testing, and it does still have a pretty good permanent pool. They did build it, I think, fairly deep, so it would have a lot of sediment storage. But at some point that will be an expensive one. So that's why there's one number in here that's bigger than all the others.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
Couple of things. First on the dredging, McKee Farms, when it says McKee Farms Southwest Pond, that was done in 2023, but there is no Southwest Pond in McKee Farms Park. What is that referring to? There's a pond on the southeast.
It's the South Pond. That's the one. There's a South Pond, a North Pond, and a Northwest Pond. It's the South Pond. That would be the one that gets dredged next. So I'll correct.
But so when it says the Southwest Pond was dredged in 2023, what does that mean? Because if we have a 30-year lifespan, then we wouldn't do that one again until 2053.
Yeah, no, the McKee South. I'm trying to look where it says that. Under
the description.
Yeah, I see it. It says it was delayed from 2022 to 2023.
And it was actually delayed from 2019 to 2023, if you look back through the old CIPs.
Yeah, I frankly, I don't know what that means. The Northwest Pond would have no reason to be dredged. That was constructed and enlarged in like 2014. It has to be the South Pond. That's what it has to mean. I think it didn't need to be dredged in 2022 or 2020. It's scheduled for like 2030 now, and I think it could be probably pushed from that. So I'll clean that up when we go through it again this year, because
okay.
That doesn't really mean anything.
And then, did you scroll past the Cyan Interceptor?
I did. That's kind of out of my purview.
Okay.
Traceway Drive storm sewer reroute. So this one is scheduled for 2028 construction. This project would involve rerouting some storm sewer on Traceway Drive. So rather than right now, that storm sewer on Traceway Drive discharges directly into Nine Springs Creek. This would have it be rerouted into the Nine Springs Golf Course Pond first, and then it would, get treated in the pond and go out into Nine Springs Creek.
Is that pond on the golf course a stormwater structure? Or is that more of a static?
Both, I'll say. It has a stormwater function. I don't think it was built for that reason. I think it was built for...
But it's technically not one of our stormwater management ponds, correct?
No, it is. It is. I just don't know if it was originally designed for that sole intent, or if it was more of aesthetics and to draw water off for like irrigation. So yes, Traceway Drive. So the thing is with this project, it was one of the projects that we looked at in the TMDL study that was completed. There's a lot of discussion on how much money should be spent on removing 1 pound of phosphorus, right? Does it make sense to spend $30,000 to remove a pound of phosphorus? Or should it be closer to $1,000? You'll see different people will say different things, but this is one that has a pretty high cost per dollar of phosphorus, it's not really going to provide any. It's pretty much a water quality improvement project exclusively, no flood kind of mitigation or anything. So I think this might be a project that, unless you can get grant funding for it, I don't know that it is. I think there might be better projects out there to do. So we'll see about this one. I think you need a grant to make it make sense. So if you don't, I think you just have to kind of wait on when you could get a grant for it to do it. It's a pretty high dollar per pound of phosphorus. Next one here.
Hey, Ben?
Yes.
In 2030, there's going to be that multi-use path that connects the Cannonball Trail on the west to the Fish Hatchery Road path. Would that conflict with this, or would there be any economies of scale if it got pushed back to 2030 and you did the work while the side of the road is already torn up?
Yeah, it would definitely be cheaper. We want to keep that. We want to keep those two projects together. If this project does move forward, we do want to do those at the same time. It will be less expensive if it's part of a larger kind of full street reconstruction project. Still, I think you need the grant to make it make sense. All right, so this next one here is the Fitchburg Road Stormwater Project, something that's actively being worked on and has been worked on, I think, for quite some time. Probably, one of the more known nuisance flooding issues that the city has. The plan at this point is we're working. We've kind of got a new design for culverts out of Goose Lake. Previously, we had a plan to increase the culvert size that outlets Goose Lake, but it also had involved changing the permanent pool surface of Goose Lake. So that was something that we didn't want to do. We wanted to maintain the existing lake level. That was seen as problematic to lower it. So it'll be more just increasing the size of the culverts. Right now it's just two little 18-inch culverts, can't pass that much water. So we'll be looking to put in some larger culverts, and this is another item. Will be an agenda item for this later as we kind of have plans to share and whatnot. So this one should be going into construction in 2026 with the Fitchburg Road Improvement Project. There was some other work being done for this project to try to regionally lower groundwater through the area and provide it as base flow to Badger Mill Creek. That work is kind of on hold right now until I think the lawsuit kind of gets figured out. So that kind of piece of the project it's just going to have to wait. So
what's the lawsuit?
I think there might be some. I guess I don't want to say because I don't want to say something wrong. But yeah, you could probably Google it and talk. But yes, so this one we'll talk about more in the future as well, in the near future.
Ben?
Yes.
Am I reading this correctly? The cost on this thing has almost tripled since 2017?
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, what did they have in 2017? 160. I don't think there was a plan in 2017. I don't know how a cost was developed in 2017. I haven't seen any plan from that. That must have just been a shot in the dark before there was a real plan put together.
Okay.
And then we have that.
Well, I know that construction costs have risen substantially faster than inflation these past few years, but this one seemed extra special.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I haven't seen any, that number must have just been a kind of a high-level estimate at that point.
Once we had that big rain event in 2018, that might have, I'm sure there was, if I remember right, there was flooding.
There
It
was.
pretty significant
It
in
was
2018.
long-term too, yeah, I think it was.
And then became a longer-term issue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right. Drainage and flooding improvements. Again, this one is another one that's funded annually, and it's got some more flexibility, so you could use it for public study of drainage issues, or implementing some smaller kind of capital projects, or it can be used to fund other projects, frankly, if they're running out of budget in a different CIP. So this one kind of has some flexibility in it, but generally it's kind of for studies if the city has a need to do a study in some area.
we're running about 10 minutes behind, so
Okay.
I don't know if we can.
Yeah, we can go through
wrap
here.
this up. Yeah.
Lake Barney again, I think this one here, there were some preliminary plans put together 2021, 2022, but there were some issues with getting the water conveyed through the village of Oregon. There has to be some sort of a drainage route constructed through some farmland and through a park in Oregon. If that doesn't happen, then the plan that was the preliminary plan won't work. So there's really nothing that the city is doing at this point on that one. So this is the Lacey Seminole Regional Stormwater Facility. Again, we had that year in 2018 with a lot of rain, 2019 a lot of rain, 2020 a lot of rain, and this Kettle area south of Sub-Zero Parkway filled up with water. It didn't overtop, but if it did overtop, it would kind of spill south across Lacey Road into another depression. It would just kind of keep spilling across if there was enough rain and volume of water to do so. There was a study completed. A couple ideas came out of it. So there was the option to try to construct an infiltration basin close to this kettle and pump water from the kettle into the infiltration basin, or build a permanent kind of pumping infrastructure. So, get kind of a permanent pump in place, get in some storm sewer, or at least enough storm sewer to bring it to a different pond where it could then flow through gravity. Kind of looked into this, talked to some consultants. It's a pretty hefty price tag, so the thought is, if again, it's kind of a philosophical thing. Do you just pump it with our existing? The city has a big stormwater pump. It's been pumped out before. Do you just do that every 20 years, or how long or how often it happens, or do you put in all this money to try to stop it from occurring in the first place, which it's no guarantee that an infiltration basin isn't going to partially just kind of recirculate back into the kettle, or that it would be able to infiltrate enough to keep the volume down from overtopping. So this is another one that kind of need to do a little bit more thinking on if it really
Is
makes
this
sense.
Kettle in the area where Edgewood College is gonna have their sports complex?
It is north.
North.
It is north, but if
On the other side of Lacey?
Yep, so it's just north of Lacey. If it did overflow, it would go into that
Okay.
Kettle.
As I said, you're like, it is to the farm southwest of Lacey and Seminole.
Mhm. Storm sewer on Floran and Lyman Lane. This was a project from 2021, 2020. There's some kind of nuisance drainage issues in the street there. There's a lot of sump pump discharge. Streets are flat, can kind of ice up a little bit. City offered to install kind of a new pipe in the terrace where people could hook up their sump pumps to, but it was going to be assessed, and that kind of killed the project. Once it was going to be assessed, there wasn't as much interest in the project, but we've still got it on here in case that changes.
Are people's sump pumps still running constantly, like today?
Guess it depends on where you live. I'm not sure. I'm sure some people's are, but just depends on where you live, really. Nine Springs Creek restoration. The 2018 storm kind of caused a little bit of damage to some of the stream bank stabilization that was completed here several years ago. Well, more than several years ago, like 20 years ago. It's a less important priority project, could get pushed if really, I think, finding water quality projects that make sense is a priority. So this is a type of project that if there was a more water quality focused project, you might want to do that one more. Pheasant Ridge Trail storm sewer extension. There's the Pheasant Ridge, I think is it Ski Lane intersection. It's in the new former town of Madison area by Southdale Park. There's some nuisance periodic drainage issues in that intersection, so this would just be looking at extending storm sewer further up the road to pick up water before it gets into that intersection. This is a pretty straightforward, simple project here. Yarmouth Greenway stabilization. This is another one that the city's actively working on. So this is just north of McKee Road, north of McKee and west of Fish Hatchery. There's some pretty significant erosion along portions of this of the bank of this creek. It's kind of been known for several years now, working on implementing some stabilization methods. Again, another project we'll have an agenda item in the future where I can share some plans. So we'll talk more about this one. Triverton Greenway bioretention basins. Again, this is another water quality focused project by south of McKee at Triverton Greenway. There's a little spot of city-owned land where we think we could fit a bioretention basin in. Again, not what you want to see as far as like dollars spent per pound of phosphorus removed, but this was a little bit better than the Traceway reroute project and could probably get some grant assistance for this one.
How does the BRT station and the multi-use path that's going in over there, interplay with what we might do with stormwater retention?
So the path and the bathroom facility that they're going to have is kind of closer to McKee, and these bioretention basins would be south of that. So I think we can do both things here in this location. And then finally, stormwater equipment. So this is just, the city has pumps, and we'll actually look at this. This might be a little bit better. So you can see there's stormwater utility as a trailer, hydro seeder, regenerative air sweeper, street sweeper, backhoe, and then a half-ton pickup. You can see in here, this is the years. This
What's
is
the second table represent, where it says year, different colors?
This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of, if you look at the replace year, you'll see that, let's say 2024 let's say 2026 for example. That is the half-ton pickup.
Okay.
And then if you look at 2026 in that column, it's basically just restating the things that are already in the top table.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
it's
the same.
Like the
It's-
other colors, like pink. There's no pink in the table above, or
It's just the way it was presented, but it
okay.
basically just it's basically just summarizing things by year rather than the piece
That
of
doesn't
equipment.
correspond to colors in the table above, then, or
It looks like it doesn't. Looks like it doesn't.
well,
No.
some of it does.
Oh yeah, I guess.
The blue 2033 is different.
Yeah,
than the
okay.
table.
Kind of does.
Okay.
Close enough.
Yeah.
All right, and that is it for basically the CIP projects. Again, we'll have a little bit of more a discussion on potential other projects at the next meeting.
All right. Just real quick, so
20 minutes behind.
yeah, 20 to 25 minutes behind. So my one question is, do we look at like solar, or, are those capital improvement projects, like anything related to the sustainability plan, for this group, like are there like commissioning projects or energy efficiency projects, like in rooms like this, lighting? Just wondering if those are considered capital improvement projects, or is it mostly just like stormwater and other stormwater type infrastructure projects?
Let's see if Phil can jump
So at
in
least
on that
things
one.
related, the things I'm familiar with related to solar would have to do with just kind of the standard repairs and maintenance, just sort of the operating budget, and that's the annual. It's not CIP. So CIP we don't have any new solar installation projects planned in the coming years, so that would fall under a CIP budget. Certainly the police facility with its solar and other efficiency measures. We have not yet gotten into, at least to the best of my knowledge, I've been trying to get some information on where we are with planning for there will be some redesign of City Hall once the police department moves over to the police services facility. There are still conversations going about that, but I'm not sure what the budget planning looks like for that, and to what degree we'll be able to add any new efficiency measures, or if it's really just going to be a lot of kind of interior redesign. But if there were solar projects, it would very likely fall under a CIP.
All right. So, I guess within the context of the sustainability plan, and, I guess, if there are things, and if we're going to be looking at this again, if there's anything that you guys
If it's a
recommend.
major purchase over $50,000, I think that's a CIP project.
Yeah, so I'll need to, I don't have anything right now. Just haven't gotten to those conversations at the Public Works, but certainly by the time we're submitting CIP requests for next year, I want to make sure that I'm caught up with Public Works and facilities and what their plans are there.
Seems like
I
it
know that
has
there are still
like
plans
EV
to-
vehicles in here.
That is part of it. I did not include that at this point.
Okay, are we planning to purchase or replace some of our vehicles with more EV vehicles, or?
Phil?
We are still planning on more EV purchases. Certainly the loss of federal credits is going to have an impact on that. I know that the fleet drivers that are using EVs are a big fan, especially the Lightnings, but those are plans on that are changing pretty substantially from Ford, given the loss of credits and an aluminum shortage due to higher costs there. So they're kind of getting rid of their EV only Lightning fleet, and they're transitioning to more gas engine Lightning F-150s, and also a kind of a modification of the Lightning where it's going to be a hybrid. So instead of just an electric only vehicle, it'll be an electric battery powering the vehicle, but the battery is recharged via a gas engine.
Okay.
So that has been our most popular. EV has been the Lightning, and those are kind of going out of production. So that's going to change our plans. We're still going to be looking at EVs and trying to prioritize those, but it'll get a little bit more challenging.
All right. I think, just incorporating that in is the point I was trying to make. We don't need to talk a lot about it now. We're 25 minutes behind. Yeah. So want to get on to the next subject, but if we're going through this again, just want to see any recommendations that you guys have from sustainability plan or any other context beyond just the stormwater.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to agenda item 4E, draft 2025 MS4 annual report. And so we have 15 minutes allotted for this.
We'll cruise through again. This is another one that there'll actually be a resolution to approve the submission of it. So we'll see this again, and we'll actually see the physical report, not just kind of these draft appendices, but in the spirit of public involvement and participation. I did want to kind of get this on here just to give ample chance for folks to see it. Again, for those that are unfamiliar, MS4, that's municipal separate storm sewer system. So the city has an MS4 permit that's through the DNR. It has what they call 6 minimum control measures. So this is what, as the permittee, you kind of have to do to meet your permit obligations. The 6 minimum control measures are public education and outreach. So that's, it could be things like when this group writes an article on, salt wise, using less salt, that's public education and outreach. Going to, different events and tabling, anything like that is education and outreach. And there's certain topics that you got hit on each year. So things like, picking up pet waste or promoting residential infiltration, illicit discharge and detection. So there's all these categories that you gotta touch on throughout the year. Public involvement and participation. This is an example of a public involvement and participation. Any kind of public meeting, whether it's a public involvement or information meeting, if it's a council meeting or a commission meeting like this, anything where the public has the opportunity to comment. Other things included in this would be our waterway cleanups that we have each year. That's a public involvement activity that kind of satisfies part of the permit requirements. Illicit discharge and elimination. So this is, making sure that things that are going into your storm sewer are okay, which basically just means rainwater. Anything other than rainwater shouldn't be going into the storm sewer. So each year, got the city broken up into 3 zones. We do 1 zone a year and we look at all the different outfalls. So any pipe that discharges into a stormwater basin, a creek, a wetland, any discharge, we'll see if there's anything coming out. We do them after a few days of dry weather, so there should not be any water coming out of any pipe, any storm sewer pipe, and if there is, then we got to figure out where it's coming from. So that's something that gets completed annually. Construction site pollution control. So every municipality or MS4 permitted municipality has to have a construction site pollution control ordinance. So this is kind of the city's erosion control ordinance that outlines permit requirements, administration of the permit, and so forth. So the city is is doing quite a bit more than what the permit requires from this for this minimum control measure. The city permits any project with over 4,000 square feet of disturbance. Per this, you actually would only have to permit anything with over an acre of disturbance. So the city's permitting a lot more sites than is just required by the permit. And then the city inspects the sites far more often. It's weekly inspections primarily, when inspections are actually only required like once every 45 days, which I think is not enough. So that's why we do it a week.
Is that some of the stuff that's farmed out to Dane County?
Yeah, they completed 700 and some inspections for the city this year, which is why we like to use them, because staff just isn't going to be able to complete 700 of them. Post-construction stormwater management. This is basically just, your city has to have an ordinance that's at minimum meeting the NR 151 requirements, but then it's also procedures for the oversight and maintenance of these stormwater management facilities. And it's not just city-owned facilities. So we inspect all the city-owned facilities every year, but then we also have private owners complete inspections annually. So that's something else that we review. We get these maintenance agreements with all these private property owners, which basically allows the city to do an inspection for them if they were not to do it, and even complete maintenance on their land if there was an issue that we were having problems with getting them to address. Pollution prevention. So again, this is stuff like street sweeping, cleaning out any sumps and inlets, sweeping up leaves, providing pet waste bags, tracking how much salt is being used. All of that stuff follows under this pollution prevention minimum control measure, as well as the maintenance facilities stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's the only site in Fitchburg that has to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's just because you got the gas tanks, diesel tanks there. So that's, once a month, all the tanks get inspected, make sure there's no leaks, issues, anything like that. So yeah, it talks about the street sweeping, leaf collection. And really, yeah, that is the last control measure. That's kind of what the MS4 permit is about. So we'll report on all those metrics. We'll get into a little bit more detail when we have time. But does have anyone just kind of like high level questions on MS4 annual report? What it is, why we do it? All right, made a little time back, hopefully.
All right. Thank you, Ben. All right, moving into some old business items now. So agenda item 5A, January Green Thursday event recap and discussion. I know that there were several of us that made it to the event. I know Ben and Ron and Bill and myself were able to make the event. I think our first event was not as well attended as we would have hoped, but this was our second event and trying to kind of build this brand up for this Green Thursday film series. And we had a pretty good showing of people there. Good turnout. It was a really good documentary. And then, there was some really good discussion afterwards. So we just kind of let people say what they thought about the film for the most part. And people had a lot of questions around our food scrap program in Fitchburg. And so we were able to answer those pretty well, but then there were some other ideas and connections that came out of the meeting that I know we still need to follow up on. There was actually an attendee that wanted to potentially donate some land for community gardens in Fitchburg. So I think it was a really good choice of a film. I think it was helpful that it was more current. I still don't know that we did our best in terms of marketing it, but I think we did get a little more support from the library. So I think, you know, that certainly helped. But people who attended certainly seemed to enjoy the documentary and the discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has anything else to add that was added.
Oh, it was good.
I thought we had a good turnout. The film was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Yeah.
The mayor actually showed up,
Yeah.
so that was pretty impressive. So thank you, Kim, for organizing. I know that you couldn't be there in person, but we ham and egged it and got the event pulled off, and I think it was a good one. So.
Great. Yeah, and I think Ben has been doing an amazing job with his flyers. And so the fact that we were able to get that over to Rebecca at the library was very helpful. And so we're getting better at our outreach.
And I'll
But
try to have
definitely
one
more.
done before the end of this week. I'll share it out, and then we can get that circulated.
Yeah, so
Thanks,
our
Kim.
next one is in March. What's the date of it?
Yep, March 5th.
March 5th is our next one.
Yep.
All right.
And Rebecca is going to try and get it in their newsletter, their February, March newsletter. So hopefully that'll be good timing.
What's the topic?
What's it be?
Trees and other entanglements.
Trees.
Trees and other entanglements.
Trees.
So yeah, I think, you know, we went through and selected, you know, titles that seemed interesting or on point with some of our current goals and objectives, and you know, and hopefully, you know, we can continue to market and kind of build the brand up for these events again. It seems like it's coming up like very quickly already. You know, February will be done before we know it. So this event's going to come up pretty quickly. So we'll have to kind of get it marketed out there. But excited to kind of keep this rolling forward. I know that when's the next one after that, Kim? After March?
Then we have May 7th.
Okay.
And then July 2nd, September 3rd, and November 5th.
Okay. So this is just kind of hitting the frequency that we kind of came up with, so we can, you know, always evaluate this if we want to go quarterly, if it's feeling like every 2 months is too quick. But, you know, it was actually a really enjoyable night. So if other RCC members would like to attend, I'd love to see you there. If it works out for you. I know everybody's schedule is up in the air. Like, I don't think I can make the next event. I'm not sure that I can, but you know, it certainly was nice to get to the last one.
That sounds great. I have a question for everybody, I guess. Do you think it would be a good idea to create this information being accessible in Spanish as well, since like there's a lot of also Spanish speakers, and just make it like bilingual?
Yeah, I've been trying to do, like we're gonna do that with our recycling signage, get some bilingual stuff out there. Like on the flyer or I guess, because I thought about that too.
And the same flyer.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess what we do in Focus on Energy is one side is in Spanish and the other side is in English. So we don't have to use a lot of paper, you know. We can just...
We would also need subtitles on the film, either English with Spanish audio or vice versa.
Yeah, and I can definitely check with Rebecca on that. One of our biggest challenges is we're very limited in what's available through the library. Otherwise, you have to purchase a single license which is anywhere from $200 or more. So the last two that we were just looking at, we have to kind of go a different route to get access to it. But I'll reach out to her and just see what the availability is on the subtitles.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the library has done, with regard to that practice. Maybe there's some other items or events that they've had where they've done that and had success. But yeah, I think, thank you for bringing that to the table, Diana, and I think certainly can look into that, because that would be a nice way to expand our viewership on these.
Big
An awful lot of movies have multiple languages of subtitles. If you buy a Blu-ray or, that's I think it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking at the population in Fitchburg, and I know there's a lot of Spanish speakers. So I was just like, we should do something about that.
No, it's good. Thank you. Next item is agenda item 5B, finalize the 2026 strategic objectives. So, Ben, I don't know if you want to pull that up just so we can kind of have that front and center for everyone to see. I know it's in the packet.
We saw a calendar in the packet. I didn't see.
Well, so it's just kind of like the start of our calendar of events. It's kind of like looking at those bullet points above the month of January. I know that we didn't have a chance to talk about these at the last event, but it's like, what are our ongoing annual yearly efforts, and do we think that those should still be our ongoing yearly efforts? And then where do we need to shift any of our RCC's focus for 2026? So I think it's on page 45 of the packet.
Yeah, I actually had exited the Zoom meeting. So,
I thought we talked about this because of lighting work that's still on here. We've already got that.
Was this not the update?
We got it. Do we need to do any outreach on it, or do we need to, or do you think we can just pull that off at this point?
I think we can pull it
I
off.
think we can pull it completely.
Yeah. I mean, a gauging station for 9 Springs Creek.
That might be tough.
Yeah, I think that's going to be tough.
I don't know if it's gonna.
I don't think it's something that would be doable this year.
I kind of agree based on the Board of Public Works discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's gonna be appetite for it.
I think we had some other good ideas though. We talked about December. I have to go back and
About what?
notes for 2026. We discussed it at our meeting. People threw out some good ideas. Let me see if I have the unofficial meeting minutes.
So one thing, Ben, I would just suggest, maybe the first bullet, improving the recycling efforts in schools with outreach events, we've really kind of passed that off to, we did our part with that for a number of years. I think I'd rather see that change to improve recycling efforts in multifamily complexes and try to get that spearheaded and going again. So we've done that in the past. Kim and I have some experience with that, and I think that we could look at some of those things and see if we can get some of those efforts going again and kind of get out a little bit more beyond just the city campus in terms of where events are taking place. So the schools right now are at least the Madison schools are well in, and even surrounding schools are well in hand with proceeding on a path with recycling in the schools. And so we've sparked that effort, and it's in the right people's hands now to kind of help see it forward and sustain it. So I feel like if we can change that one to multifamily complexes, that would be good. I don't see a problem with bullet number 2. I don't know what you guys want to say or how you guys want to, there's a bullet on each of the 2 items for the Swan Creek monitoring station. So you want to take it off of support, or sorry, take it off of the focus,
You mean
but
Nine
keep it on.
Springs Creek?
What?
The Nine Springs
Oh.
Creek?
Yeah, I see what.
I think we could remove that.
Remove Nine
Yeah, I
Springs
think we
Creek,
should move that one, yeah.
I don't
And the link.
and then continue to support Swan Creek.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay. All right. Continue outreach events. I think, all of those things are still worthwhile to continue to do. What about enhancing efforts to manage stormwater and decrease stormwater runoff?
That's a perpetual effort.
I mean, it seems like it's always going to be important, like, because we
Yeah.
have rain events. I don't mind keeping that one in the mix.
Yeah.
We'll have our sustainability. So did we take anything off? We didn't take anything off. Ongoing efforts.
Mostly just changing the schools to multi.
So then maybe a suggestion I have, like we've taken Nine Springs off down below. I do think organic waste and composting we want to stay in, and we've been already doing that to start the year. So I feel like I'm seeing all the social media posts go out. I feel like we're doing well there. What about with having Diana on, like more in the terms of energy efficiency?
Yeah, I think so. I think Phil would love that. I'm sure it's right in his wheelhouse.
I love that. Yeah.
Like residential.
I'm curious about like
efficiency
before I was
just kind of general or focused at the maybe residential level or businesses or just.
I don't. Maybe this is where Diana, you could weigh in. Where do you think it would be valuable, or Phil? Where do you feel like we could focus our energy efficiency efforts?
I think definitely starting by residential. I'll say multifamily, but I don't know how much we can help renters right now. But definitely giving them tips but I will focus on residential. Yes.
So I have talked a little bit. I've talked a little bit with staff about trying to find ways to get more information in the hands of multifamily renters. Certainly looking at whether there are brochures that could be included with new resident packets or things included in energy bills and work with utilities on that. And I agree that multifamily would be a really big win. And there are some strides we're making there, but always a lot more ground to cover. Definitely would agree that residential would be a better area to focus than commercial. I think that a lot of commercial properties, they tend to have more specific kind of internal requirements related to their budgeting, that they're keeping track of energy use a bit more than your average homeowner or especially renter. So there's a lot more low-hanging fruit in the residential market to be captured.
Perfect. So I think that would. So we've crossed out like our bottom 2 bullets of RCC's focus in 2026. We're adding in energy efficiency for multifamily and residential folks. Do we have anything else that we would like to add in? Looking at all of our expertise on this commission. Is there anything, I mean, we have the organics, we have the increase of use of native plants in Fitchburg. Andy, does that seem on point that we should, or do you want to adjust that focus a little bit? Or Ron, feel free to weigh in on that one as well.
I mean, the city already has a program for, I guess, the use of native plants and their plant management. I guess when you do curbs and things like that, you already incorporate native plants in the design, don't you? Like the reconstruction of fish hatchery, I noticed a lot of that, all that stuff, like in front of Thirsty Goat and all that area, it's all native plants now. So,
It's not like it's not a city policy though, but it's just kind of happened. But we could,
I mean, who pushed for that then, to do all that work?
the idea is that it's gonna be a cost savings long term,
Okay.
right? To be, not having to mow it, with the same frequency, but,
I mean, is there something in, I don't want to call it an ordinance or something that
right.
would require the city to consider using native plants when they redo a medium or put in a roundabout or something like that, that they use native plants in that process?
Something we could talk about.
So I guess adjust that as you feel like we
Yeah.
need to kind of fit our current
I mean, would
goals.
it be an ordinance or would it be?
I don't think it needs
guidelines?
to,
I'm trying to
I
what
think it could just be, kind of a policy. There's policies that the city have that aren't ordinances, but there's a resolution, associated with it. For example, there's a policy that, stormwater outlots, if there's a stormwater facility, it has to be designed to the DNR technical standards, requires some like minimum 4:1. So yeah, I think there is an avenue to do something like that. So I'll have to talk about that with some staff and see what they think the best way forward is.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if we.
Is there anything from the Renew the Blue? You said a lot of that is agricultural. I presume some of the runoff prevention is essentially just swales and ditches. Is there opportunity to line those with native plants?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
Make them into
Or
rain gardens.
rural ditches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Man, I guess it would be a nice goal to have to develop a policy for that. See what we have in-house right now. And if it's not sufficient, or, that we would, work to develop a policy or procedures.
Tie into our involvement with this
Yeah.
pretty well. So it seems like
Yeah,
a good fit.
that's a good one.
So, is there an action? item?
Andy, did you have something that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah.
I know you were about to say something.
Consider policy changes to increase native plant use on city lands.
Do we have access to the city's policies on the website, or is that something?
You should have
We have
access.
ordinances, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure about policies.
Yeah, like the stormwater one I was talking about is on the city website. There's other,
We might need to dig a little bit. To
policies that are, might be in a comprehensive plan or something like that. So, yeah, let's continue to talk about that one.
Okay. So I'll make that an action item. Maybe I can work with you on that one.
Okay.
Too.
Sure.
Okay.
So we've got that. We've got the organic waste and composting crossed out the bottom too. What about like on the sustainability plan? Kind of diving into kind of help with the implementation of that. Is there anything from a big picture perspective, Phil or Ben, that you feel like we could take on as a commission to really kind of launch that sustainability plan? Or is that a big question?
It's a big question. I've had some initial discussions with department heads about that. Definitely a lot more planning to be done. I would say if there is anything in there that sticks out to you that you say, hey, I'd really be interested in helping to advance this, is there something we could do that might be easier than me thinking of what would make sense for you to focus on, but I can try to put a little thought into that as well. So I think, for instance, the recommendation on encouraging more native plantings with city efforts, that absolutely fits within some of the the green space goals of the sustainability plan, and I think that would be a great area of focus. There's a lot of ways it could be addressed, but that's a great example of that.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? I know we're running a little bit behind, so I think we've had a good discussion. I think we've gotten some adjustment on our bullet points is kind of what I wanted to get out of this conversation, to kind of think about some of these things a little bit in depth as a commission and try to pin these down a little bit more on the things that we're going to focus on this year. All right. Thank you very much for the discussion. So real quick, I know we're a little bit behind here, but wanting to just do some high-level RCC event planning for 2026. So I know we're doing these Green Thursday film series events, so we will continue to do those through the year. But you know, I think there's a couple of items and ideas that we were talking about at the end of last year that we want to maybe bring back into focus as to when they're happening. And so there was the Eco Latino group, is that right, that came in? So they have something coming up in Earth Month.
They do. That's what date is that? It's April 19th.
18th, I believe, Saturday, April 18th.
Yeah, Saturday, April 18th.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that in the staff update, but can do it here. Wisconsin Eco Latinos hosts a bilingual environmental conservation fair every year in April, and this year they asked Fitchburg if they could hold it here. So the newly named Hostahochi is going to be the site for that on April 18th from noon to 4. So it'll be there'll be a number of tables with information, education, some different demonstration things. They've got a number of organizational partners that they've worked with in the past that'll show up. I'll have to double check with Christina on this, their director, but I think, Deanna, do you know, has Focus on Energy done that before? They have. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we have done that before last year. Okay. We're doing that this year as well. So
great.
I will be there.
We're really excited about this. Ben and I are gonna, I think, Ben, you're planning on this too, right? We'll have some tabling there as well to talk about some city things. Have to coordinate what exactly we want to cover, but yeah, really excited for this event and to have it in Fitchburg. I know I've been trying to attend the last couple years. The timing hasn't quite worked out, and once we're hosting it, I have no excuse. It's blocked off on my calendar already.
All right, so
pretty fun. Usually they give away trees as well. So for kids, it's like they're excited. I don't know. My kids were excited.
we could probably have an RCC booth at that, and then we could also help with coordinating and certainly doing outreach, you know, on the event. I don't know if we'd call it our annual event. You know, maybe we should call it our annual event.
I think I'm probably due a coordinating call with Christina, and I can ask her what the status is right now. I know there is, I guess depending on how many partners she's planning on having, there's a lot of space for tables, but not infinite. So I'll just have to see if she's also able to block off a table for RCC or not, or if we'd be talking about just sharing one between Ben, myself, and one person from RCC, if that would get too crowded. But I can chat with Christina about that.
We can share the table. Right.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, I think we'll talk about that. I know, Ryan, we're going to do kind of a sustainability tour sometime this spring. So that was going to be a bike tour potentially of different sustainability houses or other structures around the community. So I think that definitely could be an event.
Yeah, so we actually just met with Bill and Andy Potts and Kelly to talk about that. I think our first one that we're hoping to do would be at Dunn's Marsh. And he's talking to somebody from Badger Talks who would come in, provide like a 15-minute kind of presentation about marshes, hydrogeology, walk around, answer questions. just as a way to kind of kick it off. And then I think we had discussions about future events throughout the year as well, things that we could try and look at around the summer and the fall. So different things that are trying to include different commissions in the city, not just bike and ped, but also tree advisory, if we can do something like that. Or so I can reach out to the community outreach subcommittee too at some point once we kind of get something finalized on that. And to kind of see how we want to do that going forward.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can continue to meet and talk on that. We'll have our Fitchburg Green Series. We'll do kind of our normally scheduled events, the e-events and paper shredding, recycling events, and in April, kind of figure out what our role is with the Eco Latino event, and maybe that's an enhanced role. So I think and normally we have an event sometime in the summer as well. So just trying to figure out, time all these things out. Kim, I know that you're always kind of thinking on things with plastics around the month of July. So maybe there's something we want to do around that. Maybe we're doing some bring your own bag events. So I think there's a lot of opportunities on the table. I think probably have a little bit more focused discussion on kind of detailing out some of these roles and timing of some of these events at the next meeting, but just wanted to capture people's ideas and share a few things that have already been talked about and bring those back up and just be thinking about those ahead of the next meeting. Anybody have any other closing thoughts or comments on that? All right, well then we will move into the bill for the council update. So Bill, the floor is yours.
All right. Don't forget to vote next Tuesday. We've got a primary for Dane County Circuit Court Judge. Fitchburg Connect newsletter, the inaugural issue happened last week. So if you're not signed up for that yet, please do. The mayor at the previous council meeting in January announced her priorities for 2026. So she's looking for smart growth. We're going to have an RFP coming out for a comprehensive plan and zoning code update. Concentrating on infill development, mixed use. So, think retail on the bottom, residential on the top. Missing middle housing, pedestrian focus rather than car focus. And trying to make sure that all of our developments are economically viable so that, the tax revenue covers all the services and the infrastructure. Concentrating on our priority neighborhoods, and making sure we continue with our parks and open spaces. A couple of development items. A Grace is going to kind of reconfigure some of their area there. They're going to put in a dementia care village. It'll be the first of its kind in the United States, but it's modeled after something that they're doing, I believe, in the Netherlands. So that'll be like people's kind of permanent homes, but there will be some assistance and everything will be set up to act like a little village. It's all, kind of in support of people's memory care. Out in Uptown area, think the intersection of Sherrill and Lacey. There'll be a new 160 unit multifamily building going up just off of Central Park Place out there. And in Jamestown Quarry, there'll be another 250 to 300 unit multifamily building along with a commercial lot there with 4 tenants and a whole lot of ugly surface parking. Just south of Lacey Road between Fahey Glen and the crossing at the headwaters of Swan Creek, there's that currently empty plot of land that will be home to 25 single family homes. And I think we're still trying to figure out just how far away from Swan Creek do we need to be in that development? It all depends on whether Swan Creek is considered navigable at that point. So you're talking like somewhere between 75 and 200 feet away from the creek. If you've ever been out lately to the Terra Vesa area, you've probably seen a giant water tower in pieces getting welded together. So that's going to be raised in the next couple of weeks or months. So be looking forward to that. I think they're trying to get some inspection on the welding. But that might be something you want to watch in person. Watch a crane picking up these giant pieces and assembling a water tower. It's not something you're going to see ever again in your life. Transportation related stuff, just a reminder, we'll have expanded bus service on the 65 and 75 lines, and the B will come down just south of McKee on Treverton Pike. All three of those routes will meet there, and that should be starting in August. So I don't know if we want to try and do any sort of event around that or promotion of that. But that would be, certainly something that I'd be in favor of. And I encourage you all to watch the January Transportation and Transit Commission meeting. There was about a half-hour discussion on this woman tried to get a bunch of her neighbors to start using the bus. So it was all about just how difficult it was for her to get everybody set up with bus fare, the fast fare cards. So as a result of her efforts, I think it was a result of her efforts, we can now go to the Fitchburg Public Library rather than having to go downtown Madison to get our fast fare cards, or wait and get them over the course of a week through the mail. And the bike and ped plan, which had previously been updated in 2017, council approved the 2025 version of that with I guess a punch list of items that Phil will try and trickle into that document over time as he has free time. Parks and Forestry. So Phil mentioned, or somebody mentioned, the name of the hub is now officially Hostahochee. That's a Ho-Chunk name, meaning place to gather, which I think is perfect. The Urban Forestry Management Plan. If you haven't read that, I encourage you to read that and send comments to either Anna Healy or Eric Schreiner by February 24th. We at council passed a resolution calling for renewed funding for the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program. So that's something that's been in place since 1990 under Tommy Thompson. And the current round of funding is set to expire June 30th of this year. There were a couple of bills, a couple of Republican bills that passed the Assembly with amendments that result in only extending it 2 years, decreasing the funding, and the original purpose was to provide funding both for property acquisition and maintenance. This is all recreational property. And those bills basically said, this is only for property maintenance, no new acquisitions of property. And that is the end of my list of council updates.
Thank you, Bill. Good stuff, as always. Moving on to staff and commissioner updates. We'll start off with solid waste. Ben?
Yeah, so at the Swan Creek drop-off site, they're up to roughly 1,400 gallons of collected materials, and this is data from the end of January. So that's estimated to be about 5,350 pounds, which I think that's great. Since October 27th of 2025, Chris provided some nice social media posts that have been getting, I think, good interaction. Our total residents signed up is now over 200. Still hoping to get that more, of course, but yeah, 200 people.
200 residents have signed up.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's great. It's a little bit slower now in the winter as expected, but I'm excited to see what happens in the spring. I think we might be looking for more carts potentially, which would be awesome if it comes to that. So we'll see.
Yeah, it was like I said before, it was a pretty big topic of question and discussion at the event that we had, which was related to food. So I think that was pretty good. I continue to use it, and I'm always pretty impressed with how full the containers are when I'm using them. So I think that's been good. And then I did share 8 social media posts to be put out over the first 4 months of the year by the city of Fitchburg. So I've seen a couple of those go out, and so the city of Fitchburg's been doing a great job of like enhancing the graphics and tagging Dane County Waste and Renewables on it. So then, Dane County Waste and Renewables has been encouraged to share those posts as well. So a lot of those are geared around the why. Why are we asking to collect your food scraps? So, and why is it important? So just a little bit more context. I'll let you continue.
Yeah. And then we're also kind of working on a signage update for the recycling drop-off site. I mentioned that earlier, where we were needing to get some Spanish language in there. That's kind of one of the main reasons for it. So everyone that visits it, or pretty much everyone that visits it, can read it.
And then maybe just mention Diane Streck, so a former commissioner on RCC, wrote an article. She reached out and asked if she could write an article as a former commissioner, and she was really excited about all the new recycling that we can do in terms of plastics. That was one of her passions, and so she wrote an article which should be going to print and should be out in the next day or two, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And
So would you like me to translate it in Spanish?
I might reach out to you. We'll see. My Spanish is kind of at like a high school level, but we've got some other Spanish speakers at the city as well that I'll reach out to. But I'll send it over and get your thoughts on it too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, moving on to stormwater. So myself and one other staff member attended the North American Stormwater Erosion Control Association Conference and Trade Show. Did a presentation on Fitchburg's TMDL modeling that I think went well and people enjoyed. We also are working on some updates to our standard specifications for public works construction. This is something the city does every few years. So we'll have a new edition out in March. We've got the Quarry Hill Pond dredging project that's been completed. It just needs some restoration, and it'll fill back up with water here this spring, and we'll get that brand new pond going. And then the work began just to the south of that pond on the Techlands infiltration basin. This was a failed infiltration basin. They removed a bunch of kind of contaminated, not chemically contaminated, just contaminated by fine soil particles. So they removed kind of those clays. They've been installing a granular storage layer the last couple of days. City's got the storm sewer televising contract. So we're looking at televising all the storm sewer for the streets that will be resurfaced in the coming years. Should be looking to get going on that this February. We will be rebidding the Crescent Road and Utility Improvements project this February. That had some stormwater improvements, and then continuing to work on the Fitchburg Road project, as I mentioned, and then Schumann Drive storm sewer improvement project. That's another kind of not a fancy project or super exciting, just kind of upsizing the downstream end of the Schumann Drive storm sewer where it's a little bit of a bottleneck. So more information will be held on that. We're still getting some plans and stuff to share, and we'll be setting up some public information meetings, likely within the next couple of months. And that's all I got.
All right, thanks, Ben. Pass it over to Phil for the sustainability update.
Yep, bike and pedestrian plan update was approved by council late last month. I want to try to get some final updates, just a few technical corrections, some map updates I need to get from the consultant, some things like that done by the end of this month ideally, so it can be published and finally be done with that plan update. Starting to work on end of year reporting for the city's energy use and for green tier legacy communities required reporting, starting a bit later than usual because of the aforementioned bike and pedestrian plan. So hopefully those reports will both be completed before two. I went to Renew Wisconsin's 2026 Renewable Energy Summit last week. Had some good sessions there. In particular, a really interesting panel discussion on data centers and energy use. Got a couple good contacts at the conference as well that I hope to follow up with shortly. And then you may have noticed at the end of the agenda packet, there is, we've been working with Sustain Dane, who's also doing this with Madison and Middleton on an efficiency navigator program. So a report that they provided to CETA earlier this month is included at the end of the packet. There are a few metrics in there on the impact that the Efficiency Navigator program had in Fitchburg last year. It's been largely running through Lorraine Gage and the Economic Development Department. So I'm hearing about this, talking with them about it. I'm not leading this effort, but they touched 68 units across 9 buildings last year in Fitchburg, improved housing conditions for 102 residents, including 13 children and 16 seniors. 41 different measures that they implemented to improve energy efficiency and 9 more for health and safety improvements. Their estimated savings should save residents and owners a combined $8,000 per year. And that's about $5,800 for the residents and $1,300 for the owners. And reducing CO2 emissions by 40,000 kilograms is what they report. That's 44 tons. So some really good impacts there. The Efficiency Navigator partnership has been approved for 2026. So they're just working through those logistics now and hope to hear what that's going to look like for this year, if it'll be a similar impact or if it'll even be expanded. I'll wait to hear from Claire with Sustain Dane or from Lorraine on that. But really excited about that program, touching again on the aforementioned efficiency improvements for multifamily residents. It's a really exciting program and want to stretch that as far as we possibly can.
Great.
That's the big stuff for sustainability.
Anything else?
That about covers it for now.
All right. Very good. Any commissioners have any updates that they'd like to share with RCC?
I do have a comment.
Comment? All right, go ahead.
I do appreciate the efforts to get the EV parking signs in front of the community center, those 2 EV slots. However, it should say EV parking only, not preferred, because every time I go by there, there's a non-EV in those parking spots. And if I'm an EV driver, I would be very frustrated that I can't get in there because somebody else in a non-EV vehicle is parked there. So what was the reasoning behind to put the word preferred?
It was because we didn't want to ask anybody to enforce a requirement with parking there, and 2, this is some of the closest parking that's available for the community center. They host a lot of events, and community and senior center leadership did not want to block off 2 spaces there for EVs only that nobody else was going to be allowed to use. And then, combination of those 2 things. It was a city leadership decision that a requirement was not something we were prepared to enforce.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be out there policing it, but it's just people would police it on their own that, oh, I can't park here because it's for EV vehicles. I mean, I just think it's taking the chicken way out to put signs there for EV parking, but you're not really encouraging it because you're not allowing EV vehicles to park there if somebody else is there using it. So to me, it's either EV only or just take it out. That's my thoughts, so.
So they're not, I guess I don't know the infrastructure. I'll go take a look at it.
Well, I got pictures of it. I took pictures of cars parked there.
I mean, but it is a senior center, so like I can
That's
see.
what I think that's, I don't know, that kind of is what I'm guessing is the main reason, is that it is a senior center and they maybe are concerned about taking close parking stalls away, but then maybe then the charger should have been somewhere else.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It seems like the charger should have been somewhere else.
Do something different there, reconfigure that.
And we've had discussions with MG&E too. These charging stations go back to 2009. Nobody who was in the discussion with MG&E could speak to the rationale for why they were placed where they were. One of the issues is that the way the stalls were painted is that the EV chargers face handicap accessible parking only, and so if you can't park in a handicap accessible space, then you're parking what looks like it's behind the chargers. The chargers aren't facing those spaces. So you could put EV charging only signs. You certainly could. You would probably get fewer people parking there, but especially if they know that it's not being enforced, no one's being ticketed, and you don't even see the charging station clearly there, I don't think it would have much of a difference. It's an issue with how the stations were initially oriented and what parking spaces they're facing. And we're talking about if there's a way to make that a little bit clearer, if we could adjust the way that the spaces are striped so that one of the spaces facing the charger is not accessible parking, you might get fewer cars parking directly in front of it, but they're just not clearly EV accessible spaces right now. The signs help, but no, they're not going to do the trick by themselves. I agree. But yeah, that proximity to the building is a tough one to overcome, and MG&E is not going to move the stations to avoid that conflict.
Well, I mean, it seems like you could reverse where the preferred EV parking sites are now, make those accessible parking spots, and keep the accessible parking spots that you have there now, make those the EV parking spots. I don't know why you just can't flip-flop.
I think the handicap parking stalls there
Actually put them in the ground, so.
Learn our lesson from this one.
What's that?
Learn the lesson from this one and try to apply it forward, right?
That's the goal.
Yep. All right, anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I've got one more thing. Sorry for harassing you, Chris, for an article, because it was Diane's month.
Oh, no problem. I have it written already. It's just, it was more so the timing of it. Like, the food scrap compost has some good social media going out right now, so we'll just kind of hang on to that and have some itinerary for continued outreach on the food scrap program, whether it's March or April. You know, because I think you're up for March, right? You're gonna do the prescribed burns?
Yeah, I'm up for March, and then I guess as part of the greater conversation, I did share my notes on the forestry plan. Diana, you had some feedback as well. Did you end up sharing that with Anna Healy, or should I forward those comments to her?
Oh, I sent it to her as well.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, thank you, and yeah, keep on trucking.
All right.
Yeah, I thought both the comments from both of y'all looked pretty good, so.
Good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. All right. Well, Andy, you kept us on time. I don't know how you did it. Just pulled us back. We're going to end it right at 8:59, according to the clock in here. Maybe not on your computer, maybe not on your watch, but 8:59 on the clock in this room, which is the important thing. That's what we're going to go by. So nice job. Everybody have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Is that a CIP item? City civic